Unity Station 7 had, by official count, 43 food service locations ranging from automated dispensary units to full sit-down establishments with waiting lists. Rexar had visited exactly one of them. He had no particular interest in food service locations. The Vrak'tai ate what was provided in the delegation wing, dense, protein-rich blocks that tasted of nothing in particular and sustained the body without troubling the mind. Food in Vrak'tai culture was logistics. You consumed what was required. You moved on. This was the understanding Rexar had carried for all 9 years of his life. Right up until the afternoon he followed a smell he had never encountered before through the civilian ring of Unity Station 7, and found himself standing in the entrance of a cafeteria called the Promenade Grill, staring at a human woman who was eating something that defied every category he had available. She was sitting alone at a corner table, dark-haired, in a station maintenance uniform with a patch on the shoulder he didn't recognize. She was reading something on a data tablet with one hand. In the other hand she held a cone, a crisp, ridged cone from which rose a pale yellow swirl of something cold. He could see it was cold because of the way the air moved around it. A faint mist, a shimmer. She was licking it. Rexar stood in the entrance for a considerable amount of time. Other patrons moved around him. He did not move. The woman looked up, noticed him, and did not appear alarmed. She looked at him looking at her food, and something in her expression shifted toward amusement. "Have you never seen ice cream before?" she asked. "No," he said. She considered this, then she held it out slightly in his direction. "Do you want to try it?" Rexar crossed the cafeteria in 4 steps, which was faster than he intended, and stopped at the edge of her table. The cold was more intense up close. The smell was extraordinary, sweet in a way that had nothing to do with anything he had encountered before, layered and soft, and somehow both sharp and yielding at the same time. "What is it?" he said. "Vanilla soft serve," she said. "It's frozen cream. Dairy, fat, sugar, vanilla extract. It's been a human food for centuries." She tilted it slightly. "Try the top." He leaned forward and licked the top of the swirl. The cold hit first, sharp enough that his ears flattened involuntarily. Then the sweetness arrived, and beneath it something rich and faintly floral, and the whole thing dissolved almost immediately into nothing, which was somehow the most astonishing part. In his entire life, no food had ever simply vanished like that. Vrak'tai rations did not vanish. They were consumed. There was a distinction. He stared at the cone. "Again," he said. Allison Contreras laughed, which was a warm sound that ricocheted around the cafeteria in a way Rexar found he did not mind at all. "You need your own," she said. "Come on, I'll show you." Her name he learned while they stood at the service counter, and she explained the difference between soft serve and hard scoop and gelato and sorbet with the patient thoroughness of someone who considered this a serious subject. Was Allison Contreras. She was a maintenance technician, 3rd class. She had been on Unity Station 7 for 14 months. She was from a place on Earth called Guadalajara, which she described as warm, which she clearly missed, and which she said made ice cream a particularly important comfort. Rexar selected vanilla again, on the basis that he understood it and did not yet trust himself with variables. He ate it standing at the counter while Allison watched with the expression humans got when they were pleased about something but were trying not to make it obvious. "Well," she said. "It is the best thing I have ever eaten," Rexar said, with the flat certainty of a Vrak'tai stating a tactical fact. Allison smiled. "Come back tomorrow," she said. "I'll introduce you to chocolate." He came back the next day. He came back every day after that. Chocolate was better than vanilla, which he would not have thought possible. Strawberry was acceptable. Green tea was interesting in a way he couldn't decide was good or bad and kept returning to in order to work out. Salted caramel produced a reaction he found embarrassing and did not discuss. Rocky Road, with its pieces of solid chocolate and small soft cylinders of what Allison called marshmallow, occupied his thoughts for 2 days. He began to follow Allison. This was not a decision, exactly. It was more that his routing through Unity Station 7 gradually and naturally adjusted itself so that his paths aligned with hers. He was there when she finished her maintenance shift. He was there when she went to the cafeteria. He walked with her to the science ring when she had errands there, and waited outside the engineering bay when she had work inside, and fell into step beside her in the corridors with the ease of something that had always been the case. He was, though he did not frame it this way to himself, protecting her. The Vrak'tai were not a species that articulated emotional attachment directly. What they did instead was position themselves between valued things and potential threats. Rexar was not conscious of doing this. He only knew that he preferred to be near Allison, and that when other beings moved too quickly in her vicinity, his attention sharpened, and that the maintenance corridors she used for her routes were ones he had already, without being asked, assessed for hazards. Allison noticed. She said nothing about it for a while. Then one afternoon, as they walked back from the promenade grill, he with a cone of chocolate, she with pistachio, a flavor he found bewildering, she said, "You know you don't have to follow me around." "I know," he said. "I'm just saying, I don't need a bodyguard." "I know," he said again. She looked at him sideways. He looked straight ahead. They walked in silence for a moment. "Rocky Road tomorrow," she said. "Yes," he said. She smiled and said nothing else about it. The formal notice arrived on a Thursday. It was delivered to Rexar through Elder Dravik, the senior Vrak'tai delegate, a warrior of considerable age and zero tolerance for behavior that reflected poorly on the delegation's image. Elder Dravik had been watching Rexar's activities for 2 weeks with increasing displeasure, and had finally determined that something needed to be said. The notice was not long. It established, in the precise and economical language of Vrak'tai official communication, that Rexar's persistent association with a human maintenance technician was irregular, that his consumption of non-standard foods reflected poorly on delegation discipline, and that he was expected to resume a schedule appropriate to a Vrak'tai cub of his standing, effective within 5 days. Rexar read it twice. He went to the cafeteria. He did not tell Allison about the notice, but she read something in his silence that afternoon that she didn't comment on, only handed him a cup of soft serve with extra chocolate syrup, which he accepted and ate without speaking, staring at the table. "You okay?" she said. "Yes," he said. She looked at him the way she sometimes did, with the particular quality of attention that he had come to recognize as her version of the same thing he did when he was assessing a situation, patient, quiet, not missing anything. "Okay," she said and let it go. 3 days before the deadline, on a routine maintenance walk that Rexar had fallen into step beside her for without thinking, it happened. The cargo transit corridor on level 7 was a route Allison used twice a week. It was a wide corridor, industrial, with automated loader tracks running along one wall. The loaders were old, Unity Station 7's maintenance backlog was considerable, and the cargo transit systems were perpetually near the bottom of the priority list. Allison had filed 2 reports about loader track calibration drift in the past month. Neither had been actioned. The loader arm came out of its housing faster than the safety parameters allowed, swinging wide on a miscalibrated pivot. Allison saw it at the last moment and moved, but not quite far enough. The edge of the arm caught her left side and knocked her hard into the opposite wall. Rexar was beside her before she hit the ground. He did not panic. Vrak'tai did not panic. What he did was conduct an immediate assessment with the focused speed of someone whose entire biology was oriented toward evaluating threats, determined that she was conscious but in significant pain and could not stand without assistance, and keyed his communicator for medical with the same motion. "I'm okay," Allison said, which he could tell was not entirely true. "You are not," he said, and kept his hand on her shoulder steady while the medical team arrived. She was in the medical bay for 4 days. The injury was serious but not dangerous: 2 cracked ribs, a deep bruise across her left side, a concussion mild enough that she was conscious and alert but kept for observation. The medical team was thorough. She was in good hands. Rexar knew all of this because he had asked at length, and the medical staff had answered him with the careful patience people tended to bring to conversations with Vrak'tai. He did not go back to the delegation wing. He found a position in the corridor outside the medical bay, not blocking it, not in anyone's way, simply present. He sat with his back to the wall, legs folded, hands resting on his knees, and he waited. He was not performing anything. He was not making a statement. He was doing the thing that felt most correct, which was to be as close to Allison as he was permitted to be until she was no longer in a place that smelled of antiseptic and medical equipment. He did not eat much. He slept in short intervals, lightly, the way Vrak'tai slept in the field, aware of everything, ready to be fully conscious in an instant. He spoke politely to the nurses who passed and answered their questions and otherwise did not move. Elder Dravik arrived on the 2nd day. He came, Rexar understood, to enforce the notice. The 5-day deadline had not yet elapsed, but the elder had heard about the accident and had come to retrieve the cub before the situation became further complicated. He stopped when he saw Rexar in the corridor. Rexar looked up at him, and then looked back at the medical bay door and said nothing. Elder Dravik stood for a while. He was old enough to have seen a great many things. He had stood vigil himself, twice in his life, outside places where someone who mattered to him was being kept alive by technology and careful hands. He recognized the quality of what he was looking at, the stillness, the orientation, the way Rexar's attention was not vacant but focused through the wall on something specific. This was not a cub who had been softened by ice cream and human company. This was a Vrak'tai holding a position. Dravik said nothing for a long moment. Then he said, "She will recover." "Yes," Rexar said. "The medical team confirmed it this morning." Another silence. "The loader malfunction has been reported," Rexar added. "I filed a formal complaint to station engineering last night. I included the 2 prior reports she submitted that were not actioned. I cited safety negligence." He paused. "They have since responded. The loader has been taken offline pending full recalibration." Dravik looked at him. "You filed a formal complaint." "On her behalf," Rexar said. "She cannot currently use a workstation comfortably." The elder was quiet for a long time. He looked at the medical bay door. He looked at the cub who had, apparently, spent the night in a corridor doing paperwork in between intervals of keeping watch. He did not deliver the formal notice. "Come and eat something," he said instead. "You can return afterward." Rexar considered this. "There is a cafeteria on this level," he said. "I will not be far." Dravik almost said something and then did not. He turned and walked to the cafeteria, and Rexar followed, and they sat together and ate, and neither of them mentioned the notice. And when they were done, Rexar walked back to his position in the corridor and Dravik walked back to the delegation wing, and nothing further was said about the matter officially or otherwise. Allison was discharged on the 4th day. She came out of the medical bay moving carefully, one arm held slightly close to her side, and found Rexar standing in the corridor. She stopped. She looked at him with an expression he had seen on her face before, the one she got when something caught her in a way she hadn't prepared for. "Have you been here the whole time?" she said. "Mostly," he said. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "Come on," and started walking slowly toward the civilian ring. He fell into step beside her. They went to the promenade grill because there was nowhere else that made sense to go. Allison ordered carefully, moving gingerly onto a stool at the counter. She ordered pistachio. She ordered Rocky Road for Rexar without asking because she knew by now, and he accepted it without comment. They sat together at the counter and ate without speaking for a while. The cafeteria was its usual mid-afternoon self, humming with low conversation and the sound of the service equipment, and the particular quality of light that the civilian ring had in the late station day. "The loader's been taken offline," Allison said. "Yes," Rexar said. She looked at him sideways. "Did you have something to do with that?" "I filed a formal complaint," he said. "You had submitted 2 prior reports. It seemed like the information should be consolidated and escalated." Allison was quiet for a moment. "Thank you," she said. "Yes," he said. She ate her ice cream. He ate his. The rocky road was, as always, the best thing he had ever eaten, a designation it shared with every other flavor he had tried, because he had found that the best thing he had ever eaten was reliably whatever was in front of him when Allison was sitting next to him. He did not say this out loud. He was Vrak'tai. They did not say things like that out loud. But he thought it, clearly and without complication, while the ice cream dissolved and the cafeteria hummed around them, and somewhere in the delegation wing, a formal notice sat undelivered in an elder's quarters, growing quietly irrelevant. Outside, Unity Station 7 moved on, as it always did, busy and loud and perpetually in the middle of something. Inside the promenade grill, a human maintenance technician and a Vrak'tai warrior cub finished their ice cream and ordered another round, and the afternoon continued, and everything was as it should be.